Welcome to Freeing Yourself from Fear and Anxiety. You're watching a multi-part series. If you hadn't already, please go and watch part 1 of this series. The link is also shown in the video description on YouTube. As we move along, I'll be adding more parts to this series, so you might want to subscribe or bookmark this channel for future reference. In the last part, I covered an episode in my life where I had gone through immense amount of anxiety and how I developed tools to handle this anxiety. In this episode, I will actually introduce one of the tools that I employ regularly to help me stay calm. This entire video is dedicated to tool number 1, and there's a lot to be said here. So what is tool number 1? The first tool for freeing yourself from fear and anxiety is reflection. That is to say, think about things and try to gain a proper perspective on things. We all get caught up in life sometimes, and we lose the big picture. I'll be helping you see the big picture in this video so that you can feel better. I'm going to be covering a lot of material in this video, and all of the stuff that I'll be saying is going to be interesting and pretty easy to follow. But there's just one thing I wanted to give you a heads up on, is that at times you might not be able to tell how all the dots connect. As you watch, just keep in mind the whole entire video is dedicated to just one tool, and that is to think about things and gain a proper perspective on the big picture to help you feel better. Don't worry if you don't see how all the dots connect. It's pretty easy to follow. At the end of the video, you should be able to see how all the dots connect. Now, let's see if I can help you see the big picture based on my own analysis. If you could imagine going to the moon and looking at the universe from there, there's so many galaxies. Many galaxies revolve around each other. Of all the galaxies, we belong to the one that we call Milky Way. And our solar system is merely a dot in the Milky Way. The Earth is a very small marble in the solar system. As we drill down, we get to country, the state that you live in, the city that you live in, the street that you live on, and then finally the home that you live in. Even when you drill down and finally get to yourself, well, even that is bound by time, isn't it? It's usually no more than 100 years. Compared to the infinity of time, your life is like a bubble. After I think about these things, then I look at my own life. There's so many ups and downs, but it is a temporary life. I can only do my best. Circumstances are never perfect, but I can only try to make it the best experience that I can possibly make it out to be for myself, for those around me. And to a certain extent, I can also try to make it a good life experience for the world at large. I do have limitations, as we all do. Sometimes I don't like my limitations, but then I also see other people who have even greater limitations. I don't mean to downplay the difficulties that you might be going through. You may be going through some extremely difficult situations in your life. But that's not your entire life. That's an episode. There are times of mourning and times of moving on. The same advice doesn't apply across the board. Sometimes you have to mourn. I've been through many bad episodes in my life, and most people I know have. Life is a package deal, good and bad. When you keep in mind that bad times are episodes, you can keep a mind and a heart that's open to healing. Life throws most of us into challenging situations. Well, if I wanted to go around keep thinking, this situation sucks, I could do that. I've done some of that, and I think we all have. But how long you want to keep playing that broken record? That's an individual choice. Happiness is not something you rely on circumstances for. Happiness is something you choose to be, regardless of your circumstances. No doubt you can aim for better circumstances. I always do that. But I'm still going to make the best of what I have, and I'm not going to waste my whole life complaining. I'm about to go on a slight tangent here, and some of the stuff that I'm about to say may sound like I'm complaining, but trust me, I'm not doing this to complain. I want all of us to think about things a little bit more, because maybe there is some light at the end of this tunnel, and going through this pandemic that we're going through could just be a method in which better things ahead will come. I think that most of what we can enjoy in this world need not really be all that expensive. My vision of happiness is to live in a communal setting where everybody lives like they're a part of the family, and everybody cares about their neighbor and the world at large. My vision of happiness is to see the beauty of kids playing and see the beauty of natural scenery. I don't want to feel like I'm on a treadmill all the time, and I don't want to live life like I'm a robot. I also like quiet, beautiful places that are not polluted by constant sound of machinery. I don't mind working, I enjoy working, but I find that life is too much of this and not enough of that. The things that make me happy don't cost a lot of money. It's just that society is not set up like that. Sometimes when I feel bound, I just talk to God and say, okay, God, I'm in your hands. And I guess you must feel that I'm not deserving enough for the kinds of freedoms I want to enjoy. God doesn't say anything, but we both know that my statement isn't true. In my heart, I know I'm deserving. This is a boat. We're all in this together. We all have our assigned tasks at the moment, and at this moment, I have most compassion for all the nurses and doctors that are fighting this thing. They deserve our prayers most right now. I'm sure that some of those nurses also like to experience greater freedoms too, but we need them to work right now. Personally, I feel that the requirements to live happily are exaggerated, and also, as a society, we have inherited a way of life and a system that is unnecessarily wasteful and very much damaging to the planet. Sometimes it feels like we're on a treadmill and we can't stop. Medical care shouldn't be so expensive. Medicine shouldn't be so expensive. If CEOs can make up their own salary, of course, they're going to go pay themselves an unreasonable figure. This is the system. This is the system that as human beings we made up. Today, to get a reasonable education, a student of average intelligence has to graduate with a debt of $10,000 to $100,000 in the USA. The stock market grows higher and higher with companies that have a mentality of what I call economic imperialism. Companies that want to grow indefinitely. And people think that this is a good thing. It's growth, right? A good thing. But if you think about it a little bit more, it's not that black and white. Things aren't designed efficiently here. Things are designed to be wasteful, and our lives are designed to keep running on the treadmill in the name of progress. For example, there's a device that my son wears for his diabetes. It's called Dexcom. You throw away the transmitter device every 3 months and get a new one, instead of having the batteries be replaceable. Automation is another big thing that we're facing as a human race. For example, self-driving trucks are predicted to reduce the number of truck driver jobs. You already know how cash registers have changed things over the last decade or so through self-checkout lanes. Amazon has a lot to do with how retail shops are closing, and behind the way Amazon operates are robots that efficiently manage and ship your packages. Who should be the beneficiaries of automation? When machines replace human jobs, that's not always a bad thing, but it can be a very bad thing if you don't give the people being replaced with machines a way to support themselves. Machines can be a good thing, but they should benefit society at large, giving the general public more time to think, play, work, and meditate. Ultimately, it's about all of us. It's not just about giving a ridiculous salary to a CEO so that they can have extra private jets, luxury cars, or mansions. Instead, automation should serve the general public. I'm not against working, but we need to create a more community-based infrastructure with opportunities for all people, which we do not have yet. In the interim, if you leave people without any support, that can lead to violence. The unemployment rate, and I'm talking about the unemployment rate that was there before the pandemic started, that rate is very misleading. It's actually gotten a lot harder. All of this analysis that I'm doing may come across as complaining, but I'm sharing this so that we can think about things a little bit and come to some mutual understanding. Not for the purposes of complaining. As a planet, let's create a system so that all people can be happy, so we don't have to pollute this planet to live well, and so we don't have to make life unbearable for other living things to do well. We're destroying our own habitat. It's okay to have less, but we want to live well. We don't want to be afraid all the time. I don't have the freedom to move from where I'm located at right now because my wife carries affordable health insurance and my job hasn't exactly been stable. Despite the limiting circumstances, I don't waste my life complaining. Whatever work I have in front of me, I try to do a quality job. I find joy in doing a good job. Sometimes I miss the communal feeling that I get when I visit India, when I see kids playing and people coming and going and celebrating. But I'm sure it's not all rosy, and I know many people in India are probably yearning to have what I am living here. Actually, I feel that sometimes nothing is really wasted. Out of our limitations that we live, I find that entertaining things come out. I find reasons to laugh. I can make positive out of a negative. I choose laughter as a good replacement emotion for bitterness. So when my computer gets stuck in a long process, for example, I just find myself laughing. Maybe some people might not understand this, but it's uniquely useful. So here's how it works. I just exaggerate until it's funny. So I just say, poor Cam, having to suffer this slow computer. Woe is me. I know in reality I don't have it that bad, and people have it much worse. So I start to laugh at this exaggeration. This is much better than getting my blood pressure up. Sometimes when I get stuck in traffic, I just find a way to make the time entertaining. Sometimes the children of rich kids go astray into the wrong kinds of things because they had it so easy. And so maybe life is always yin and yang, good and bad. Everything always adds up to zero. The world is just a process, and so maybe coronavirus is just a process. As a world, we hadn't been living in a sustainable way anyway. You've heard of all the forest fires, glaciers melting, and numerous ecological disasters. We were on a collision course with nature anyway. Coronavirus is like a bumper hit. We need better ways of living in harmony with nature, and maybe this coronavirus will force us into that. The world doesn't run on currency, it runs on faith. As a human race, we can create new, better systems for all of us. The debt really doesn't matter, the economy doesn't matter. You need leaders that are good visionaries so that we can guide people and form better systems that can benefit the whole planet. We can fix everything. It doesn't run on currency, it runs on faith. All it takes is courage and collaboration. We can do it. We can create a world in which energy is clean and cheap. We can create a world in which plastic is biodegradable. We can create better waste management methods. We can create jets that don't pollute the sky. Who knows? Maybe better times ahead will come because coronavirus forced us into these limiting situations. Nobody really knows God's ways. The world is a process. It's an unfolding process. Summarily, the first tool is reflection, as it pertains to the current times, markets, and wasteful methods of living which we have inherited. The first tool is also about reflecting about how coronavirus just may be a part of the process, perhaps leading us to better things ahead. The first tool is also about reflecting on how all of this is a small part of the universe and about how your life is merely a bubble in the continuity of space and time. That's a lot, but if you think about it, it can give you some peace. In part 3 of this series, we'll start to explore some more tools that I've used, and I believe these tools can also help you free yourself from anxiety. Friends, I know it's been a long video. Take a stretch break, relax, have a cup of tea or whatever makes you happy. When you're ready, there's a link to part 3 in the video description. If you want to go there right away, you can click on the card that pops up on this video and move to part 3. Then you can pause the video and take a break if you like.